Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge. This episode of Total Retail is brought to you by Business Schooled, a podcast from Synchrony. Initialized Capital and Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian meets baby boomers and Gen Xers who've created businesses that are built to last. Join him as he travels the country learning business and life lessons from these brilliant minds.
Hi, and welcome to episode 181 of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Executive Editor of Total Retail. Joining me today is Corey Barnes, Digital Marketing Manager at Excel Outdoors, a leading provider of high-quality, innovative outdoor recreation products, as well as the largest sleeping bag manufacturer in the United States. Excel Outdoors is the parent company of leading brands such as Kelty and Sierra Designs. We're going to be discussing how it's leveraging an e-commerce platform to help it better manage the online stores for its 10 brands. Thanks for joining me, Corey.
Thanks, Joe. Happy to be here.
So a good place to start, I think, would be for you to briefly tell our audience a little bit about Excel Outdoors.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure that 99% of people listening have never heard of Excel Outdoors. In fact, most people confuse us with an energy company or the spreadsheet. But if you've ever done any hiking or backpacking, then you'd be familiar with our brands. So that includes Kelty, Sierra Designs, Ultimate Directions, Slumberjack, and a family of others. So we have a wide variety of brands in outdoor gear that we make and sell.
So do you sell your products just via e-commerce? Do you sell wholesale as well? Kind of what's the distribution model for your different brands?
Yeah, we do both. So for most of our brands, we have D2C sites, and we also sell to retailers such as REI or backcountry.com.
So then let's talk a little bit about kind of the D2C angle a little bit. And you mentioned, the family of brands, 10 in total. So I'm curious, what are the challenges associated with managing online stores for 10 different brands, each with kind of its own look and feel, I would imagine?
Yeah, I would say our number one challenge is definitely resources. So our own department is very small, including me. It's 3 people. So 3 people managing 10 websites is a pretty big challenge. We also have limited tech resources. So we do have outside developers we work with, but we only have one in-house developer. So those are 2 pretty big challenges. And the other, I think, would be branding. So as you mentioned, we do have a wide variety of sites. Each one has their own audience, its own voice. So it's important for us to make each website unique, tailored to the brand, and not look like a cookie cutter site with just a different logo applied to it.
Yep. So you work with BigCommerce and its e-commerce platform. So can maybe you talk a little bit about how that platform has helped you sort of address some of these challenges in terms of, communicating that each brand has its own look and feel and its own, web store?
Yeah, sure. We moved to BigCommerce about 2 years ago in 2016, and it's definitely helped us in a variety of ways. So number one, we have less reliance on IT to make changes to the site. For one example of that would be our mobile site. We used to have a separate desktop and mobile site for each brand, and the content didn't always flow from one to the other. So we'd have to rely on IT to make changes to the navigation or other things like that.
Yeah. So
with BigCommerce, we don't have to do that as much. There's a lower learning curve for the admin. So I think the back end of BigCommerce is much easier to use than our previous platform, which was ASP.NET Storefront. So it's user friendly, it's modern, and if we need to bring someone in to do certain tasks, it's fairly easy to get them up to speed quickly.
Yeah, and you can probably make pricing changes or changes to copy, images. Is that maybe you talk a little bit about that and how you can easily accomplish that with this platform?
Yeah, that's all super easy to do. So adding images is very straightforward. Reordering them is very easy. It's a drag and drop task. So that's all very easy to do.
So,
And another thing that's very easy to do is to add functionality with apps. So with our previous platform, if we wanted to customize it, everything was custom dev work. So with BigCommerce, they have their own app store, and you can add functionality to that, usually with minimal IT support there. So a couple of examples of that would be we use Signified, which is a fraud protection platform. So we've integrated that into the checkout of all of our sites. And we also use an app called InStock Notify. So this is very useful for when products go out of stock. If someone goes to the product page, they can enter their email address, and then when the product comes back into stock, it shoots out an email to them automatically, letting them know the product's back in stock. So that's definitely helped us for conversion.
yeah, I'm interested also in some of the different ways that you've been able to scale the e-commerce businesses for your different brands. Whether it become you mentioned checkout in terms of fraud protection with Signified. Maybe do you have any examples around navigation, merchandising? Some of the different ways that you've been, able to improve the customer experience for your online visitors.
Yeah, we've definitely scaled big in mobile. That's been our number one area of growth. Our old mobile site, it was clunky, it was not intuitive, difficult to use. Right now we have a responsive site, so all the sites are responsive, so they look good on any device, any screen width, and we've really improved our mobile conversion rate substantially. We've also made a lot of gains in email. So we use MailChimp for our email service provider, and we've really been able to communicate with our customers well using MailChimp.
For your customer base, I'm imagining, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you would tend to have your customers would tend to skew on the younger end. So probably a higher penetration of mobile users coming to your sites. Is that been the case? And that kind of focus then of optimizing that mobile experience becomes even more critical for your brands.
Yeah, absolutely. Mobile and tablet combined are more than half the visitors of the site. So more people are coming to our site through mobile and tablet than desktop, and that holds true for all the brands.
And then maybe you could share some of the results that you've seen, some of the business benefits that Excel Outdoor has realized as a result of, you've been working with BigCommerce for 2 years now, its platform. What kind of business results can you show that prove out kind of the growth and the success you've had?
Yeah, we've seen positive increases for all of the sites, but for Kelty specifically, that's our biggest D2C brand. Our revenue is up 46% since we switched to BigCommerce 2 years ago. Our conversion rate is up 100%, and our mobile conversion rate is up almost 400%. So we definitely made some very good gains since we switched over.
And then my final question, Corey, is having experienced this at Excel Outdoors and with your individual brands, do you have any advice for other retailers that may be looking to grow their e-commerce businesses, or even branded manufacturers that are looking to sell direct to consumer for potentially the first time? Any thoughts on ways they can go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk all day about this, but I'll just stick to my I'll stick to my top 5 tips. How's that?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. So these aren't in any particular order, but my number one piece of advice is make sure your site has a human element to it. So people aren't just buying products; they want an experience, they want a lifestyle, they want to know they want to know who they're buying from. So no matter what you're selling, if it's tents, if it's candles, if it's widgets, make sure that people know who you are. Put yourself on the site, put your team on the site, let the people know your story and your background, because that's interesting. And for me, at least, whenever I come across a new site, and I'm always looking, one of the first things I do is go to the About section and learn who the people are behind the website. Number 2, I would say, make sure you establish a good relationship with developers, whether they're in-house or out-of-house, because if you're using a platform like BigCommerce or Shopify, it takes a lot of the dev work out of it. But you're still, if you want to grow your business, you're always going to be needing to have that kind of support from developers.
Yeah, so make friends with your developers, right? And your IT team.
Exactly. Yeah. Be nice to them. Bring them cupcakes because they work hard and they deserve it. Personalize. So we do a lot of personalization with email. An example of that is we just wrote a blog piece on leaf peeping, and we timed the deployment of the email to go out close to peak season, wherever that is across the country. So we sent the first wave out to 5 states, waited a week, and then sent another wave out, and another wave out after that. So that's just one example of how you can personalize emails to people and make it more relevant. And I think our open rate on that was somewhere between 25 and 30%, which is outstanding.
Yeah, very high.
Testing is very important. So again, with email, we do a lot of testing: time of day, day of week, subject line, content. That's all very important to figure out what works best. Because you might read somewhere online or even hear from a podcast that it's best to send an email out in the morning. Well, that might be true generally, but is it true for your audience? You're never going to know that unless you test. And then my final piece of advice would be, don't forget about how important customer service is. So you can do that through live chat, through question and answers on your site, through social, email, obviously. But look at the entire purchase and return cycle for people, because even if somebody's unhappy with the product and they're returning it, if they have a good experience, they're going to come back to you again the next time and buy something different.
Great. Well, some really sound advice there. I want to take this opportunity to thank Corey Barnes of Excel Outdoors for joining me today, telling us a little bit about Excel Outdoors, their various different brands and their e-commerce businesses. Please check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher, but make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.
This episode is brought to you by Business Schooled, a podcast by Synchrony. We're here to help people and businesses grow into their future. Meet us at synchrony.com.